Gonna take me minutes, ignore the dirty floor. I've been putting things together all day. Whee! So, let's see how I can manage this. Because I'm trying to get this to like... How am I gonna do this? Gonna work like that? Can I get you to work like this? Ha! I'm sorry. Oh god. I should figure out where to put you before I start this, but I tried a thing and I didn't like the thing. So here we are, with me still trying things. If I set you there... Nope, that just straight up fell down. I want you to be here, but my phone will not balance like that. Can you put a book there? Why is this bed frame like this? Why am I so far from the wall? Book, 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 book. What can I put there? Oh well, we'll try a book. We'll see if that works. Tonight we're gonna go. Nope. I'm just gonna keep dropping things under the bed. That's how this whole thing is gonna go. Oh, duh. I'm a fucking idiot. Cat. Not a real cat. You just gotta pull its butt down far enough. Not gonna work? Is that what I want? Almost. That's perfect! Beautiful. It only took me 2 minutes to figure out where I wanted the goddamn camera to be. Alright. Let's get this up and running. When you walk away, you don't hear me say, please, so baby, don't go. Simple and clean is the way that you're making me feel tonight. It's hard to let it go. Hold me. Whatever lies beyond this morning is a little later on, regardless of warnings. The future doesn't scare me at all. Nothing's like before. Alright. It's all posted. We're all good to go. So, hi. I rolled my ankle today. I also got the remainder of the cards sent out today. The care packages are going to take a little longer because, I still think they should get there before Valentine's Day, but, because they're in the mail, but they're going to take a little longer to get there than the cards are. I was surprised, actually, that I didn't need anything more than just a little international stamp for those other ones, which is only $1.50, so depending on what postage is for like an actual package, I might do a little more next time, but I was unsure of what everything would be before I actually scooped it all up and went to the post office. And then I spent less time there than I anticipated because I rolled my ankle walking in the door and suddenly standing hurt a lot. It still does. I've been making Boy go up and down the stairs for me since I got home. But I got a macaron out of it, so I have a little bunch of other candy, but I need to finish packaging that up. Because some of it is for people still. Nothing, I love you, but doesn't mean I have to meet your father. When you are older, you'll understand what I meant when I said no. I don't think life is quite that simple. I'm running on Kingdom Hearts 3, which I haven't played in a few days, even though I've had it for several now. I got all the way through, I'm in Monsters Inc. world now. But what we're going to do is we're going to work on Cauldronborn, because I've been ignoring Dolly and my lovely little coven here. And I left them alone on chapter 7, and I need to go back to that. And I don't want to go to bed yet, even though I do have to work tomorrow. I'm going to turn down the brightness of my screen a little, so that I don't look that pale. This is with my screen all the way dark. That's kind of more the normal color of my skin. But you know, I like being Phil Lester skin tone. That's my favorite. Why does it do that? I don't know if that's real. I can see it flickering. I don't like it. It's fine. I'll turn my light on. Does that help? Aside from the fact that I'm orange. I'll just turn it down. Oh, I know how to fix this. Noveler. Writing preferences. It is nighttime. There we go. That's better. I love Noveler so much. So this is their nighttime setting. You can't really tell from my screen because it looks blue, but it turns it like a dark gray, and it turns the text a sort of a softer white. There's also an evening setting where it turns the text yellow, which is really helpful when I'm using Flux at night. Alright, so book shaped. Swen. I meant to type Sown. Is it called embossing if it's on leather still? Do you still call it embossing? I'm gonna call it embossing for now, and I'll come back to that later. I really like, each of them sort of have a corresponding element, which I feel is pretty normal, at least as far as smaller groups are concerned. It always has been for me in terms of smaller groups, but there are usually a couple who bounce in between, which again is true of me because I bounce constantly in between being more comfortable with fire and being more comfortable with water. Which is weird, because they're so different, but there's something really comforting about both. I read a lot of poetry about that, or I used to. If you go through Dagger Dove, and you go through my poetry tag, you will find a lot of poetry about that sort of thing. Excuse me while I jump in between everything all the time, always. I'm almost ready to post Isaac's first chapter. First real present day chapter, not the Liana prelude. Is prelude the right word there? I always associate prelude with that sort of thing because it doesn't, an action or an event serving as an introduction to something more important. Yeah, so that is the word that I would want. That makes sense. I never used to know when I was younger what the difference between a prelude and a prologue and there's another one. There's a third one. Don't know what the third one is, but came. So I also had to stop some of my exercise and moving on stuff because I got really sad. That was a lot. I really need to just stop going through. Because, like, I know, too, that it would be so easy to go back there. Like, I could slip back into the master like that. It wouldn't be hard. Because I've had him in my head for so long that he is just... I'm going to move this down a little so that it's not taking up my entire body. I'm going to put my pillow back on the floor. And I'm going to write on Caleb's. He's been in my head for 6 years running now. It's not hard. 6? No. Almost 7 now. Damn. That's a long time. When I first started him, I still had... So I had the Tumblr roleplay. He was not my first Tumblr roleplay character. My first Tumblr roleplay character, dear readers, was Toby Rag from the Johnny Depp version of Sweeney Todd. And oh boy, did I love making that boy's life suck. Because most of it was post, and a lot of it was based on a fanfiction I had read, where Toby did start running the pie shop after Mrs. Lovett had been killed and after all of the bullshit that happened with Sweeney and all of that. Like, after things had calmed down and he'd gotten a little older, he'd started running the pie shop and things were going well, and then eventually, as hard times do, they came, and so he opened the barber shop. And it started out as a this is a necessary evil, and so I will only do this to bad people. And then slowly he started to realize, oh shit, I've become Todd. Oh. But I also, the first thing that got me into... The fuck is my hair doing? I'm like John Green levels of floof right now. The first thing that had gotten me to the master was I used to roleplay with a Donna Noble, as Toby, but like an adult Toby, in a modern day setting. And I was like, oh, I love Doctor Who. I could do that. But who? And I had spent a lot of time watching... What happened was I had back-to-back watched the original, 3? Sound of Drums and Last of the Time Lords? I don't know what that was. I don't remember the episode names anymore. But the season 3 finale. Not finale. Season 1 is 9 in Rose. Season 2 is 10 in Rose. Season 3 is Martha. So the season 3 finale. Yeah, it is Sound of Drums in Last of the Time Lords. Because Sound of Drums follows Harry's initial takeover and all of the happy stuff between the Saxons, even though that marriage was garbage. He was not in a place where he was just not sane. And I feel bad for Lucy. But I loved my Lucy. She was beautiful, and I loved her. She was amazing. And I have never grown to love a female character after disliking her so quickly as when I met Rachel and her Lucy. And Last of the Time Lords, which I love both of. And then I had watched the whole End of Time because I was like, you know who's pretty cool? John Sim. John Sim is pretty cool. I like the Master. I like this thing that I don't really know a whole lot about because I hadn't delved very far into Classic Who at the time. So I was like, huh, this is an interesting character. I wonder if there's more of him. But I didn't touch on that for a long time. Instead, what I did was I switched shows and started watching Being Human. And specifically, I rewatched the Box Tunnel Massacre episode with Mitchell. And it had already been sort of formulating in my head that I wanted to make a blog for the Master because I was like, you know what I write really well? Crazy. And at first I was like, there's a lot of Sim though. Like, I don't want to take away from them and how cool they are. And also, like, he's dead. But what if because he was draining energy so much, he managed to snag a regeneration or two off of Rassilon? Because that would definitely be a thing he would do, and it's already canonical that Rassilon has been creating new regenerations for himself for eons. Fuck Rassilon, honestly. And then I watched the Box Tunnel Massacre episode, and I just went, oh, Aidan Turner. Isn't that a good switch? Because he embodies this sort of rage and self-hatred as Mitchell that I was really fond of. Because there's this remorse and this terror over how bad he is of a person sometimes. And then there's that sort of that flipped switch that goes, you know, I'm pretty okay with being a terrible person. Let's murder a bunch of people because I'm drunk on blood. Why was I allowed to watch that show when I was like 11? There is so much sex. And I was 11. Or 12. I'm not good with time, which is ironic. So yeah, I created him with Aidan Turner as the face claim. And he had fallen back to Earth and regenerated a little bit wrong. And canonically, we've moved out of show canonically. The drums start to fade in and out because I was like, okay, those are connected to the White Point Star and to Rassilon, both of which gone, done, no more. That's it. Goodbye, drums. And so it became this, he's been living with that beat for his whole life. So what's he gonna do now that it's gone? How does that feel? What does that leave him with? We've already established that he doesn't hear the universe like the Doctor does, so what does that leave his psyche with to go off of? If you've had this noise forever in the back of your mind, sometimes to the point where it physically hurts you, now that it's silent, how do you deal? And that was really cool, and I built up a pretty decent following, and I had a lot of really good friends over there. I did once consider changing my face claim, but then I was like, no, he's out of regenerations. This is it. This is the end. This is the end of all the fighting. This is the end of people dying. And then I had somebody send me a non-hate because they were like, no, I liked the other face claim better. And I was like, no, too bad. I'm sticking with Aidan. And they were like, well, fuck you, Aiden's terrible. And I was like, okay, look, these are all the reasons that I use Aiden. And then they got mad at me saying, like, I was trying to give you constructive criticism that was good. And I was like, saying fuck you, Aiden is terrible is not constructive criticism, my dear. Now kindly, fuck off. Yeah. But the thing about that is I had a lot of really good partners. I had 10th Doctor's Word, who we tore each other apart. We took great pride in being able to make each other cry with writing. Like, to the point where my parents and my brother both knew specific references to threads that we wrote back and forth. And this one time in particular, my brother, when I was learning how to drive, noticed that I was having a really bad time because my anxiety is terrible. And when I was learning how to drive, I would cry. Like, the moment anything remotely incorrect happened, I was done. And he could tell that I was getting to that point. And we saw a flag, and I noticed it, and he noticed it. And it was like this flag that was kind of decimated and destroyed and raggedy looking. And he just looks at me in the rearview mirror and goes, looks like it's war-torn, which was the name of my main thread between Kate and I. And I sort of did a double take because I was trying to pay attention to the road, and then he was talking to me, and I said, what did you say? And he like made a point to make eye contact through the mirror and said, it looks like it's war-torn. And I felt much better because suddenly I wasn't thinking about the fact that I was driving and fucking up and being terrible. I was thinking about, you know, the master being trapped in the time lock and the doctor coming after him, and right before everything could go better and they could get out, the master ends up getting killed and the doctor kind of loses his mind and goes on a murder spree, and then the reset happens. They're very broken. It was so much fun. My dynamic between, and I'm gonna stop calling them the doctor and the master because I really get sick of it because I've been doing it for so long, so I'm just gonna go back to calling them Theta and Koshé. But it got to this point where Theta had been captured and they put a telepathic damper on them, and the two of them sort of have a mental link. It's mentioned briefly in Last of the Time Lords. I think, if I remember correctly, it's mentioned briefly in Last of the Time Lords. That they have a mental link, and so that got reopened as they sort of became friends again. Why is that text so big? Tumblr, what the fuck? Sorry, I'm in my drafts for that blog, which is a bad plan because it will make me quite sad, but he's running through my head. I can't help it. I could just not go there, but I have no self-control. So suddenly the link is gone. And because they've been together for this amount of time after escaping the time lock and sort of built up this codependency that's really not healthy, but neither of them are really ever healthy in any of their friendships or relationships with anybody. And of course, between the two of them, it's going to be multiplied by like 1,000,000. So he doesn't know if the master is alive or dead. He just knows that he's about to be executed, and he gives up. Because he didn't know if he was going to get out of it, and if he wanted to, if the master wasn't around anymore. And they both have this sense, because they're Time Lords, and this is actual lore, that they can sense the flow of time, and if something paradoxical or wrong has happened, they can feel it, and it's that sort of off-putting, something is wrong here and I don't know what and I don't know how to fix it. And he knows that during the events of Last of the Time Lords, he should have died, but because future paradox went back, Koshé got taken out of the lock and left the failsafe code for him. Because of that, he didn't die. The prophecy didn't come to pass. And they've created this extra paradox timeline that really shouldn't exist. And suddenly, he's presented with this place where, oh, I could set everything right now. And then the master shows up, absolutely goddamn furious, as he does. Because you don't try to take people away from him. You don't take people away from either of them. Like, the most furious moments you get to see the Doctor are either when somebody is taken away from him or when humanity has proved itself to be garbage again. Oof. 11 is especially heavy on that. See, 10 is much more prone to the sort of those moments of, oh, I get to choose, whereas 11 is entirely, this is up to me. None of you have a choice in this. It is mine to decide. And that is very much born of the fact that he came into being alone. 10 died alone. Yeah, that's heavy. So the master shows up and saves him and murders a whole bunch of people on the way because he's absolutely pissed. And he's angrier with the Doctor for allowing them to get that far towards almost killing him. And for this outburst that the Doctor has afterwards of, you get that this is wrong, right? You get that I could have fixed it, and him going, right, so saving me was wrong and me saving your life was wrong. Yeah, sure. And then because the Doctor is so fucked up with injuries from that whole thing, he goes into a healing coma. And so the master basically just leaves. He leaves, he sets the TARDIS to go somewhere else, and the Doctor probably doesn't see him for a good 2 or 3 decades until he comes across a past version who is just barely post Waters of Mars. And I don't know how this turned into me talking about all of my roleplay lore, but it gives you a bit of an insight into the kind of characters that I like. And they talk about how everything is wrong. And eventually he goes back. But it becomes this running theme of every time the Doctor sort of gets too far into his self-sacrificing nature, the master up and leaves because he can't handle it. And then eventually it turns back into their game. And then eventually it turns into As the Kind God Dies. And the whole point of As the Kind God Dies is that they went back to their game of fighting across the stars because it's easier to wear a mask than deal with feelings. And so neither of them really want it, but what happens is the Doctor dies, he lets the master kill him, and so the universe slowly starts to get blinked out. Because when there's nobody to stop you, what else do you do? And at the end of it all, and this is going into some speculative, not really taken as canon book content, from where, when they were kids, his boy Torvik, pretty sure it's Torvik, had tried to kill the master. And Theta straight up murdered him. And Death herself offered Theta a place as her champion. And in fear, he said, no, take Koschei instead. And so Koschei is, whose name literally means like the deathless, becomes Death's champion. And so she is this ever-present, sort of this underlying reason why the master keeps coming back even after he's out of regenerations. There's always this extra backup plan. He has this whisper in his head of, you literally can't let yourself die. That would be the worst thing for you. Not because it's an end, but because it would be the opposite. Yeah. Death starts talking to him as the universe starts to blink out. As place after place goes missing. As he carves his way through everything in the hope that maybe he's not dead. And then it gets to this point where if he stopped now, the universe might be able to pull itself back together. But he's on the precipice of complete annihilation. And he's sitting on this husk of a planet, empty. And he asks the goddess, she's not really a goddess, she is just Death, to bring the doctor back. And she says no. And so it all ends. And that's kind of the true end to that particular writing. We had a whole timeline laid out from start to finish. And originally, As the Kind God Dies was a little alternate universe thing we had done for an Ask game. But the further along the story we got, and with things like the execution problem and the mask and the game and all of it coming back, we started to realize that we had gotten very close to this place where As the Kind God Dies suddenly became a very real possibility. Which was really sad, because when things were good for them, it was amazing, and they were both actually maybe a little bit sane. And when it was bad, it was universes burning and both of them screaming, and none of it was healthy. And then there's Emrith, and things with Emrith were probably the healthiest that the Master has been with anybody ever, possibly. Somewhere along the line I started consuming Classic Who, and I realized, oh, you didn't used to be batshit crazy. This is a new thing that they're doing, and oh dear lord, the one John Sims' appearance in 12's run pisses me off like nothing else. They did him so goddamn dirty that I will never, ever feel good about it. It makes me very angry. And I love Missy, minus the whole chaos part, because the entire point of the Master is that he despises chaos. Like, literally everything about him, his cold calculation, his purpose to the universe is reading The Dark Path summarizes it very well, especially between the Doctor and the Master, because this is before Koshei even took the name the Master. This is back when he's still Koshei. This is back when he actually thinks he has a human companion. Side note, she's actually a Time Lord sent to watch him by the CIA? The Time Lords have a CIA. I don't remember what it stands for. But it's... I'm just gonna call it the Citadel Intelligence Agency. He says the Doctor is a being of chaos, and that's why the Council doesn't like him. Which is true. The Doctor is very chaotic. Everything he does is chaotic. He is the epitome of chaotic good. The Master is the epitome of lawful evil. Or neutral evil, really. Because it's not lawful, it's not... It's order. It's sense, it's logic. His ideal is a universe where things have order and make sense. And cutting out the chaos, trimming away the dead, so to speak, is how he puts it. To which the Doctor responds, time travel isn't bonsai. You're not allowed to do that. And he says, why not? I'm a Time Lord. That's literally what we do. So we observe the whole of time, but we're not allowed to make it better. And his version of making it better is cutting out the chaotic parts, the insane dictators, and like his idea is cut away the bad stuff. But the way he needs to do it is literally just cut it out, like make it not exist anymore. Which the Doctor is obviously not okay with. But the betrayal on Darkheart is sort of what sets them on this divergent path of constantly clashing together, and it's really so sad. Darkheart is so sad. Koshei? Koshei died with his human companion. Oof. Oof. Anyways, when I realized that he wasn't really insane to begin with, I started to shift little bits of that. I had already incorporated that because I was really like, I feel like you shouldn't be this crazy. Like, I feel like that's not really what your purpose is. Because his insanity is based around the drums, and without them, he can slowly start moving back towards that cold, calculated genius that admittedly is very campy in Classic Who, but all of Classic Who is either very campy or very dark. Usually both. But going back to that, going back to Delgado, and even to holy shit, what's his name? Ainley! Anthony Ainley. I love him. He's amazing. He was beautiful. But yeah, Roger Delgado and Anthony Ainley, amazing. Incredible. Could have done without all the velvet, but you know what? What are you gonna do? And also, like, you're just as bad as the Doctor when it comes to names. Like, hi, yes, I'm Colonel Masters. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Sure. Sure you are. But, like, it's not, the Doctor's completely oblivious. Like, seems legit. Hi, nice to meet you. It's fine. Alright. I miss that. I miss it a lot. If you've stuck around for all of this to listen to me rant about all of my roleplay shit for years and years and years. But anyways, around that time, I was still roleplaying on Horse. And that is HOWRSE. And the website is terrible now. But this was back when Horse was still, I don't know, it was a nice little forum-based place to roleplay, and I liked the horses. Because I was one of those girls. I was the horse girl. I was the crazy horse girl. I had a roleplay there called Mythic, and it was where this lady Alice, who was a vampire, not Twilight Alice, different Alice, still a vampire, still with future vision, but totally different, ran basically a Camp Half-Blood for mythical creatures, creating a sort of safe haven for them to live, if they so chose, or just a safe haven if they were passing through, for them to be. And that did really, really well. It had like probably 4,000 replies, and then it died off, and I didn't have it saved in a way, and I wish I did, because it'd be really cool to look back through all that, especially the stuff with Tyler and Scarlet. Tyler was another one of my vampire characters. I really like vampires, if you hadn't noticed. So Tyler created Alice, and Tyler is kind of a precursor to how Eric is. He was a little bit less of a terrible person, and a little bit more suave. Both of those things. But he had this obsession with Alice because Alice was the first person he had tried to turn that had actually survived. And then he meets Scarlet, who is this bird person. And I also had Lyra at the time, who could turn her body into diamond, which was really cool. And she was dating this guy, Xavier, who had bird wings, and somehow ended up becoming like one of the possible rulers of her kingdom because he angered the prince and they had a duel and he won. I remember all of this from when I was like 9 through 13. It was really good. But yeah, so Tyler meets Scarlet, who is another bird person. And in this big war that Alice and her people end up having with this werewolf pack that inexplicably want control of I had a lot of trouble with her god modding. Like, I liked her writing, but she god modded a lot. It was hard to just be like, hey, you need to stop controlling other people's characters and stop killing them without their permission, because I am going to retcon it every single time you do, because this is my forum and you are going to pay attention to my fucking rules. Except I didn't swear because I was like 12. Anyways, Scarlet died. And agreeable, like she agreed. The two Muns were like, yeah, okay, death. And Alice took over the fight there, and Tyler turned her, and that was a lot. Because, like, Scarlet was barely starting to develop feelings for Tyler, and Tyler was like, you're not dying. This is not happening. And then there's this whole other trouble with this vampire Ben, who's got like a whole fucking mansion full of people and vampires, and bad things are happening, and he's another one of Tyler's fledglings, and Scarlet finds out about this, and it all goes very downhill, but it's all sorts of fun and drama, and I miss like really big group-based, I just want to play D&D again. That's really where this is going. Like, honestly, I would kill to play some Vampire the Masquerade type shit right now. Really, 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 really. That would be amazing. It's occurring to me that I've kind of been writing vampires for my entire writer life. Minus the first really long thing, which was the Chronicles of Squirrel, which was, again, glorified Kingdom Hearts fanfiction. Before I even knew what fanfiction was. But like, Krishna Morgan in Nightmare Neighbors, her mom's killed by vampires. She ends up, her blood, she's kind of half vampire, but in not the normal sense. Like, her blood and Jonathan's blood are definitely separate in her body, sort of trying to constantly destroy each other. Her blood trying to, like, get rid of this toxin, and his blood trying to take over. But there's not quite enough of it to do that. And so every time that it circulates enough that it passes through her heart, and his moves slower because it's thicker. I don't remember if I ever worked out like the exacts of this, but this is how I'm going to describe it. So every time it passes through her heart, it sort of stutters and stops, and her body goes cold. And if she's close enough to him, it will force the change completely, which does eventually happen. She kills Jonathan. Nikki loses her shit. And then Krista kills herself because she doesn't want that. Which was always her plan eventually, if it happened. And she knew it was kind of inevitable. But yeah, there's always been vampires. Fire Melody. So Melody and Arya and Emily are sisters, and Emily turns out to be in league with this bunch of people who are trying to kill them because they're witches, but the people killing them are vampires, and I don't know. So Emily ends up being a vampire, and later on Emily ends up killing Arya and turning her, and Melody doesn't know any of this. So when Melody finally kills Emily, and Arya shows back up and is like, hey, I'm not dead. That was an interesting story. I didn't get very far with it. I think there were vampires in Silver Moon too, which was really just a self-insert of me and my friend Carly going on some kind of adventure. I really hurt my ankle earlier. Tomorrow's gonna suck. I don't think there were vampires in Silver Moon, though. I don't know where my flash drive is, or I would check. Door to the Angels didn't have vampires either. Door to the Angels was a weird time in my life. I also used to have a lot of Harry Potter dreams where characters were vampires instead of, not like my Immortal style, but, like Crab and Goyle, inexplicably, in one dream, were vampires and involved in the whole, because I would dream myself into the events of Deathly Hallows, which was all kinds of fucked up. But super fun, because, you know, it's a dream. Not that I knew it was a dream. I never know that I'm dreaming. The weirdest shit can happen, and I will never know. The only time I've been aware that I was dreaming, I was not the one controlling the dream. The one controlling the dream was all the way in the goddamn Czech Republic and constantly alluding to the fact that he was controlling the dream, and I knew it was a dream, and I'm not going to talk about that because I will feel sick. But yeah, there's always been vampires. There will probably always be vampires a little bit in any of the, just like sprinkled. Ow. In one of the NaNoWriMo stories that I did, Into the Unknown, which is about this girl Mira, again based off of a horse roleplay character, Myra Duran, briefly stops over in California, back when Safe in the Dark was still set on the goddamn West Coast, and because I can't resist the urge to sprinkle my stories together, she runs into Daniel at a night market, and she trips, and he helps her up, and scares the living crap out of her, because the vibe he gives up, like, Daniel, pre-rewrite Daniel, who is still very much just David renamed, creepy as fuck. Charismatic as all hell, but still, if you are paying attention, you will know something is wrong. And so she bolts, and then later in the San Francisco scene, when the one I rewrote and posted where Alex tries to run and Daniel comes after her and ends up trying to force her to kill somebody and it doesn't work. I don't think I alluded to the fact that it doesn't work in the rewrite because I didn't want to go that far because I wasn't really rewriting the scene because it's not relevant anymore. But there is a moment in the original scene where Alex sees this girl on the side of the street and she's trying to do anything she can to not pay attention to the fact that Daniel is there. And so she watches this girl walk along. And it's Myra. And Myra is watching her and seeing Daniel and thinking, I should say something, I should say something, I should say something. He's not safe, I should say something. And she doesn't. And that guilt stays with her for a long time. But she was very afraid of him. Oof. Oof. I should probably go to bed, or at least get off the internet, because it's 10:15 and I have to work tomorrow, unfortunately. I think we're gonna try and to close this out with a little bit of music, because that's how I feel right now. Let's see. Oof. This is my guitar, by the way. She's very pretty. I don't know if she's still in tune because I haven't touched her since yesterday. Sort of. And ignore my terrible strumming pattern because I started with ukulele and that down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up has never left me. And eventually I will be able to strum other patterns, but will be in my head forever. And keep in mind that you know what, Jenna? No disclaimers. Am I allowed to look at her like that? Could it be wrong when she's just so nice to look at? Fuck is that? Okay, it's fine. I can't hold that chord, can I? She smells like lemongrass and sleep. She tastes like apple juice and peach. I am trying to learn how to play the guitar. I probably shouldn't start things like this, but I don't care. I can play. You know what I can play? Or at least I used to be able to play. Is my capo still right here? Yes, it is. Capo, capo, capo. Is right. Oh, this fucking in drop D. God damn it. Hang on. Where's the right one? For life's but a dream. Fantastic posing green. We should feed our jewelry to the sea. For diamonds to be. Capo on the 5th. There we go. That's what I wanted. I still don't think that's right though. Oh well, we'll find out momentarily if this is what I remember. I don't think that's what I was playing. Was it version 5? Oh no. Here comes the B minor. Hey, please forget to fall down. Hey, don't you go I can still sort of play that. Not well, and the strumming doesn't sound great, but I can still kind of play it. And I'm gonna finish it out before I go, I guess. Is running toward the page, he's chasing off the days, look back at both feet and that one you need. I missed your skin when you creased. You clicked your heels and wished for me. Your playfulness made of yarn, that fragile Capricorn unraveled woods like moss upon old scarves. I know the world's a broken bone, melt your head and call it home. Hey moon, please forget to fall down. That chord is so hard for me to switch to. Hey moon, Don't you go down. Sugar cane, easy morning weather veins, one and lonely sugar cane, easy morning weather veins, one and lonely sugar cane, the easy morning weather veins, mine, one and lonely. Yep. Anyways, that's how you get around that. And I think that is the end of me tonight. Because it's 10:30. My fingers hurt because I did a lot of guitar yesterday. I probably shouldn't do very much of it tonight because my fingers hurt. And I'm a pussy. And I don't want them to bleed. Even though I know that's kind of what you're supposed to let happen. So, we're going to end the stream. And I will see you lovelies another time. Maybe on Monday if I decide to stream again. I guess this is me kind of making up for not streaming at all the past couple of weeks.